what does 2024 hold for investors? Let's get right to the floor show. So joining me now is the Fitz-Gerald Group Principal, Keith Fitz-Gerald, and Price Futures Group Senior Market Analyst, Phil Flynn. Welcome, gentlemen. Happy holidays. Keith, I have to start with you because you predicted an S&P 500 target for this year of 4750. Right now, we are at 4772. So congratulations. That is almost exactly spot on. You know, it's a surprising year, though, because we saw these gains with a banking crisis, a recession that everyone was predicting that didn't ultimately seem to land. Some analysts are taking those bearish concerns into 2024. So my question to you, what's your target for S&P 500 for 2024? Because I'm going to write that down right now. And do you think that we're going to see this rally continue?
Well, thank you for remembering that. This is a very tough business, and boy, it's nice to hit one out of the park. I mean, we're within 0.5%. I know my numbers were good, but not that good. So I'm looking for 5,100, 5,200. I think the bulk of the gains are going to come in the latter half of next year after the Fed gets benched and people really latch on. FOMO isn't even in the picture yet, but it's going to be, particularly when it comes to AI, particularly when it comes to companies that are going to leverage that. So I think we're going to have a great year. It might even be one for the record books.
Well, okay, 5,100 to 5,200, folks. You heard it here first from the picker. Phil and Keith, I know that you both are really hot on AI. And Phil, I want to bring you in on this first. I want to get your take on the most obvious one. NVDA up over 200% for the year, really a banner year. It currently just announced that it's launching an adjusted version of a gaming processor in China to comply with U.S. export rules. That's great news given their market share in China. You still think that there's room to run on this? I mean, why? And how much do you think?
Because we are only scratching the surface when it comes to AI. And NVIDIA is the leader, right? And I mean, you think about this. This is very similar to when we first discovered the internet. What is that internet thing, right? You know, remember that? And of course, it just exploded to the upside, right? And it changed the way that everybody lives, the way they shop. And this is the next iteration of this. This is so substantial. It's going to change every business on the face of the earth. And it's just beginning. And that's why NVIDIA is going to lead. Now, there's other stocks out there right now that we've got to find that are going to be the next secret AI stock. But, you know, if you want to be safe, you stick with the leader in the space that's going to be the strongest, not just next year, but probably for the next 10 to 20 years.
Well, quick follow-up on that, then what are some of the other ones that you're watching? Because I think some investors are looking at NVIDIA and saying, well, maybe I missed the bandwagon there. So what are one or two that you're thinking?
You know, I think you have to look at things like Coinbase, for example, the exchange, because I think they're going to be moving into that as well. Some of the other ones that I like is our Arista Networks, ANET, which is another big one. And they do a lot with the expansion of the technology. But there's other ones out there that we have to keep an eye on that will develop over the next couple of years. And they're going to come in from places that are surprising, in places you don't normally look at. And I think a lot of that's going to be in crypto because crypto is going to become mainstream. And I think you're going to see the intertwining of the artificial intelligence with the crypto space, and it's going to lead to some amazing things.
Yeah, Arista Networks, we just had on the screen a second ago. We actually had the CEO on back in the summer, and they were having a really good run, especially with all the partnerships they're doing. Keith, I want to stay on AI with you. There's been a lot of buzz, a lot of investment, but I haven't seen the moment yet where all the puzzle pieces come together and you really see that the tech is developed enough where companies, you know, can kind of get that step change by implementing it. And you sort of alluded to this in the first question, but what are some of the sectors that investors should be watching that you really think in 2024 are going to be able to make that step change when it comes to leveraging AI?
That's a super important question. There's two schools of thought here. One is a company like Apple, which is using AI behind the scenes. You don't hear a lot of noise, but what do you think drives Siri? What do you think drives the wearables? That's all AI, even though we don't hear about it. But the other side of the coin, this is something we're really watching very, very carefully. The next big jump in medical technology is going to come when companies like Pfizer, Gilead, some of those people, Eli Lilly, they look for the speeding up of any of the treatments they're working on, the discovery of new cures. I think we're actually going to solve many of the diseases that are plaguing humanity right now within the next 10 years, thanks to AI, most of which is going to come into play the next couple years.
And what about agriculture? I've seen a lot of companies start to leverage that. John Deere, you know, autonomous trucks. I mean, obviously not great if you're a farmer in terms of the labor, but what about that space?
Well, I actually think that's going to be really interesting, because now you're going to talk about efficient water use. You're going to talk about better fertilizer, higher yields. We may see vertical farming. There's going to be a lot of things that happen because we're going to be able to draw connections between crops, methods, and even chemicals and things that go to the pure source of our food, not just the food itself.
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting space to see that play out. Phil, quickly, I want to tap into your expertise on energy. You know, the sector really banner year, 2022, 2023 underperformed. I'm looking at the oil market right now, and I'm getting mixed signals, because you're seeing the price drop, you've got concerns about weakening demand in China, but you're also seeing, I was reading your note earlier, I think it was a 6.9 million barrel plunge, which would indicate, well, hey, there's demand there. So what are you thinking is going to happen in the early part of 2024?
You know, I think we're going to see a big rally in energy in the new year. And you're absolutely right. The negative narratives really took over late in the year. And part of that is because we built in so much war premium early in the year, it actually changes supply and demand balances, because prices went up, it slowed down demand. But now that prices have come back down, we expect demand to exceed expectations. We're going to see record high demand. And we think that we haven't seen the full impact of the OPEC production cuts. That's going to be coming in the next week. So we're going to see supplies really tighten. And I think the mood will change in the new year.
And of course, where oil goes, so does inflation. So it's definitely going to be something that we're watching. Thank you, Keith Fitz-Gerald and Phil Flynn. Happy New Year to both of you, gentlemen.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hi, it's Keith here. Thanks for checking out today's highlight clip. What'd you think? Did I make sense? Is there something you'd like to add? Make sure you leave a comment down below, and of course, click subscribe to keep up right here on YouTube, or sign up for the email newsletter at the link below. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram for my real-time thoughts on markets, analysis, and a whole lot more.